Solid start to a week that includes inflation numbers and a good rally to get us underway. 0.2% up for the S&P 500, holding on to gains through the close, ending pretty near the highs of the day. The Nasdaq also added 1.25%, closing near the highs of the day. Dollar closed near the highs of the day, 108.2. Bonds did fade, ended near the lows, saw treasuries sell a bit after an early morning bid. Not too much to talk about there, as we just hit with Colin and Kevin, a pretty amicable relationship right now between bonds and stocks. That helps the equity market find its footing after a couple attempted breakouts this year that turned out to be fake outs. So the S&P 500, 60.66, still less than 100 points away from its all-time high intraday basis of 61.28 for the index. So we're real close. You could get there in a session if we get the right combination of things. Bitcoin ended just below 98. Tried to get a rally early on in the morning. It looked like maybe it was going to get us going for risk assets, but then it kind of fizzled. Looking at some of the downside movers, we talked on semi, which has been a laggard in the semiconductor space for a while. The chief offenders of big tech strength, as we heard from Kevin Gordon there for the semiconductors, but there were some big winners in there. NVIDIA added 3% today, which wasn't bad, and Supermicro added a ton, an 18% rally. Joining me, Caroline Woods is in New York, and Alex Coffey is here with me in the studio. A little bit of breaking news I thought we might touch on, even though I don't think OpenAI has a huge impact on stocks. Maybe Microsoft, Tesla could be moving on this story that Elon Musk and a consortium are offering almost $100 billion for control of that nonprofit. What do you think about that headline, Alex?
I think you could make a case that it could be net negative for Tesla shares just simply for two reasons. One, that's a lot of money. Elon Musk may have to sell shares to raise the capital to actually do this.
Yep.
And two, one of the biggest reasons for Tesla's optimism and steep valuation that it carries is investment into this kind of thing. So now he would have potentially control of a company like OpenAI that's very particularly focused on this, investments in something like xAI, which is also working on this, and then also Tesla. More than likely, you would start to see a focus at one of those places, likely a place like OpenAI for AI-related research and development, and then a company like Tesla would then, partner up with it or outsource or buy into that technology. And so it becomes less about Tesla developing this, and it would be more about OpenAI potentially developing it.
Yeah. Kind of bring it in-house to some degree. Use it as kind of a slingshot for the momentum that it's got behind it right now. We know that Tesla shares do, to Alex's point, move on. Perceptions or the reality of Elon's time commitments, Caroline, chime in on that, because if there was a movement, it might have been there with a further dip in Tesla, which ended at the lows of the day.
I don't know. I don't know that the market cares so much about Elon Musk, having too many jobs, because this Tesla stock, surged higher following the election, and he's the head of Department of Government Efficiency and seems very busy with that job, according to all the headlines coming out of the White House and all of the changes going on there. And until recently, the stock wasn't beat up for it. And one would argue that, Tesla shares were lower today, all day anyway, and trading down about 3% earlier today when I was talking about some of the negative analyst activity going on as well. Keep in mind, it wasn't all that negative, but we did have a Stifel analyst lower their price target on Tesla to $474 from $492. But the reasons why were for some pretty, fundamental reasons: mixed Q4 results, stiff Chinese competition, pricing headwinds, uncertainty around the Trump administration, and actually talked about the favorability ratings for Tesla being the lowest or near all-time lows based on their latest survey. And then there was also a Needham analyst basically saying that FSD, the kind of AI component of Tesla, is basically priced in at current levels. Now, Other analysts like Garrett Nelson over at CFRA disagree with that. He was on the show last week talking about how he thinks that will drive Tesla to $540 a share. So there's obviously, a discrepancy in FSD and what's actually priced in. But I do think that that's notable. I also think it's notable that we saw Lyft rise almost 4% today. I'm just taking a look here. Oh no, actually almost 7% today. It really rallied into the close on this TechCrunch report that it's actually going to be offering fully autonomous robotaxis to its app as soon as 2026. And, that coincides with Waymo launching so Lyft is in Dallas, Waymo is in Uber and Austin and Atlanta. And then Tesla also has plans for Austin in June. So the analysts that basically say, Tesla, the Needham analyst basically said Tesla doesn't have first move advantage in that market. That kind of goes to show that might be the case. Lyft shares ended up closing up 7%. Uber shares actually closed up more than 5%. Still could be kind of the Bill Ackman effect from last week, knowing that he's building this stake and making the case. But Tesla shares were under pressure regardless of the headline. So I don't know. We'll see.
No, I like the point that Uber and Lyft had big days too, because there is, I think, a pretty real message about self-driving cars that's starting to find some real kind of market cap movement in the stock market. I think that's a very fair point to bring into it. The other thing that I think too is just like, this isn't going to matter too much for traders or investors necessarily, Alex, but like it's getting to be one of the most complicated ownership situations and dynamics ever. Like the for-profit subsidiary mixed in with the non-for-profit, and then Sam Altman and Elon Musk both having started this thing, and now Elon trying to retake it, basically saying that he wants to kind of, I think, tamp down its reach a little bit to some degree, which would kind of fit more with the nonprofit mindset.
Yeah,
that's my two cents.
These are, I think, interesting conversations, but maybe not market impactful ones.
Exactly.
In terms of short term.
Yep.
I guess to clarify what I mean is if you're Elon Musk or really anyone who has control of many different different things, why would you invest those companies' assets in the same thing? And so it may not impact Tesla from an AI breakthrough standpoint, just because Tesla's AI research is primarily due in around self-driving vehicle technology. That said, if they are working on other autonomous, things like robotics, maybe that would be a project that is better suited technology-wise for an OpenAI or XAI. And so, to me, it just there's going to be synergies across that. It would just be logical. Why pay all these engineers to do the exact same research when you could pay them all to do different things?
Right.
But I do think the Uber and Lyft piece to this is important. But for me, I see it as existential for Uber and Lyft to get this figured out, whether that's partnerships or breaking through on the technology themselves. Because, look, as much as we want to say that we like the interaction or don't like the interaction, if it becomes cheaper, which it will, to have a car drive itself than someone else drive it, you're going to take the cheaper option, especially if you're a repeat customer. So really, all these companies at the moment, as long as they're tied to it in some positive way, benefit as more and more cities and municipalities allow this to happen.
Yeah.
But Uber
it's going to Dallas next through Lyft.
They need to make sure that they're on board with this before it's too late.
Yeah. How important is the self-driving element to the Ackman stake? Just to come back to that for a sec, because the fact that that's still having knock-on effect today for Uber after last week, Caroline, is a pretty big deal, it seems like. I
was going back and reading his text his tweet from last week, and it seems like it's more about management, saying we believe that Uber is one of the best managed and highest quality businesses in the world and can still be purchased at a massive discount to its intrinsic value. So basically saying that's extremely rare. Now, obviously, the management plays into the investments that Uber is making and such. So no clear connection that I can see, but you certainly could, kind of, I guess, link it together, if you will. I do think it's also important to note, I believe on Friday we'll get 13 Fs from, and see where other, big, powerful people are investing their money. So it's obviously backward-looking data, if you will. So, but it'll be interesting to see if there are any other sizable stakes being, acquired in other companies. But it's certainly had a positive effect on Uber, which we know had been kind of beaten down heading into the end of last year, and it's had a really nice run higher now, up about 30% so far this year, and that's due in large part to this Ackman stake.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's helping Lyft too. A lot of times those two move inversely to one another, but I think it's pretty clear that all of these things interact through this thread of AI that is very real and is coming to more and more cities. So even if Ackman doesn't, seems like he more just kind of has always liked the company, but the fact, go ahead, Caroline.
Keep in mind that Lyft also reports earnings tomorrow, so could be some optimism heading into that print as well.
That'll be good to watch. Yeah, that'll be an interesting one. I'll give you a last thought, Alex.
Yeah, when it comes to this Ackman piece, I'm not going to say Ackman good, bad, anything, or question his own judgment for his own investment portfolio. But oftentimes, companies are trading under what you feel is intrinsic value for a reason, and it could be to the fact that this is an existential point in time, in my opinion, for this company's technology. They could get cut out of it if they don't figure out autonomous driving or partner up with a company that does before the Teslas or the Waymos, et cetera, really take over the space.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I was sold after my first ride for the Waymo, so I've said it before. It's a lot closer than I think people even, it's not close, it's here. So appreciate it, guys.